Hey y'all, it's Kim again. So this is another narrative from the Moscow Police Department. This is number 7, and this is John Lawrence. So this is at like 1:45 in the afternoon, on the day after the murder, so November 14th. These were released July 8th, I think, of 2025, after the gag order was lifted. So narrative. So this is Lawrence supplemental report. Initial response on 11/13/2022 at about 12 o'clock. Captain Barrett called me and informed me there had been multiple victims of a homicide located in a residence on King Road and requested all available detectives. I called Detective Vargas and was informed she was out of town and would be back in Moscow on Monday morning. I called Detective Mowry and he informed me he would be on his way shortly. I called ISP Lieutenant Mike Mooney and told him I need assistance from my ISP detectives in processing the crime scene. Lieutenant Mooney put me in contact with Sergeant Gilbertson. I briefed Sergeant Gilbertson on what I knew and told me he would start to assemble his team. I responded to the scene where I met with Sergeant Gunderson. Sergeant Gunderson informed me that officers were dispatched to an unconscious person at 1122 King Road, and that is when they found 4 deceased college age people in the residence. I told Sergeant Gunderson I needed someone from his team to return to the police department to start writing an affidavit for a search warrant, and Sergeant Gunderson asked Officer Nunez to handle that task. I then did a very brief walkthrough of the residence. I entered the residence from the entrance on the north side of the building. Officer Warner, who was securing the scene, logged my entry or entrance into the residence. I then went up the stairs and located a deceased female on the floor and a male in the bed in the west bedroom on the second floor. I climbed the stairs to the third floor and located 2 deceased females in the southeast bedroom. They were both in the bed. I spoke with Officer Smith, who was securing the residence at the south entrance for a moment. Then I exited the residence through the north entrance. Officer Warner noted my departure. I called Sergeant Gilbertson and informed him of the additional information provided to me and what I had seen. I told him MPD will be needing their assistance. I also told Sergeant Gilbertson MPD had an officer writing an affidavit for a search warrant, and then I returned to the police department where I met with Sergeant Blaker and Corporal Payne, who I called earlier and requested they respond to the PD. At this time, Detective Mowry was at the police department. I requested they interview the other occupants of the residence where the deceased were located, and there were also several friends of the deceased who had been with the deceased the night before and may have had information of their whereabouts and who they were with prior to the murders. Those interviews started at about, 1:48, and those to be interviewed arrived at the PD around 13:30 hours. I put them in the training room and provided them with drinks and snacks. Yeah. Captain Lanier, or Lanier, I guess, arrived and asked me how he could help. I requested he find officers that were not already tasked and complete a canvass of the neighborhood, and Captain Lanier took care of the, oh my goodness, took care of the neighborhood canvassing at about, 2:23, redacted, Xana arrived at the PD. So, I mean, I'm not sure those names are. He was informed of Xana's death by Captain Dallinger. Captain Barrett informed me Ethan Chapin's family had been notified of Ethan's death. And Captain Barrett asked me to take care of the death notifications for Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonsalves. Captain Barrett provided me the information the university had on file for Mogan and Gonsalves, and there was no emergency contact information for either. So I called Kootenai. I don't know. That may not be how you say it. Kootenai County Dispatch due to Mogan and Gonsalves' home address being in Kootenai County. I provided redacted the KCSO dispatch address is listed with the university for Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonsalves. Redacted told me she had the names redacted and redacted, probably Gonzalez. That could be Steven, and then I don't know this name. Listed as residents of the address provided for Kaylee Gonzalez. I requested a death notification for them. I was contacted by Deputy Mitch Jan from KCSO. He asked what he could tell the parents, and I informed him we knew very little at this time. A short time later, Deputy Jan called me and told me that when he arrived to give the notification, the parents were already aware. I also provided Madison Mogan's address, and Redacted was not able to locate anyone with the name Mogan at that address. Redacted said she would send a Coeur d'Alene PD officer by the residence to make contact. A short time later, Officer Matt Sitches, I don't know, Sitches, I don't know how you say it, requested I call him. When I made contact with Officer Sitches, I don't know how you say it, he told me redacted, probably Steve and Karen, I think that's their names, Laramie, and Redacted and Madison Mogan were driving to Moscow. About 20 minutes after my conversation with Officer Sykes, whatever, the Laramie arrived at the PD. Captain Barrett gave the death notification. Captain Barrett requested I interview them. I spoke with Steve and Karen in the lobby interview room. They told me they had a great relationship with Madison. She got along with everyone. She had a strong relationship with her boyfriend, Jack. I can't remember his. It's not Showalter, it's Schweiger or something like that, who lives in Boise, and that she had just gone to Boise to see him the weekend prior. Madison and Jack have been dating for about a year and a half, and Jack is from Redacted. I asked if there were any problems with past boyfriends, and there were none to their knowledge. I asked if Madison had mentioned any stalking behavior from anyone or anyone that made her uncomfortable, and they said she never spoke of anything. The rest of my shift was spent allocating resources where they were needed, and this is J.W. Lawrence, and then Captain Anthony Dallinger reviewed it. So that's that one. Let's just keep rolling with these. There's so many of them in here, and I know I'm late to the party, but we might as well get them out there. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.